Welcome back to Life Lanes, the Brotherly Guide. We are your hosts, Justin and Dom Mazza. On today's episode, we're chatting with one of my closest friends, Shub Multani. Shub and I went through the trials and tribulations of medical school together. Currently, Shub is a practicing naturopathic physician in Portland, Oregon, where he specializes in primary care. Shub, how the hell are you, man?
Hey, what's going on, Dom?
I-
Justin, nice to see both of you.
I'm glad that we can finally do this. You know, when we started up the podcast, you were one of the first persons that I really wanted to get on just because I find your story so interesting and you're just generally like a cool person that we can have really great conversations with.
Hey, I hope I don't disappoint. Thanks for saying that.
Before we get started, you know, I did notice on your Instagram story that you went golfing the other day.
I did, yeah. So I went golfing for the first time in my entire life yesterday morning.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I took a class in undergrad in one of my summer semesters because the summer that I was graduating, my counselor said, by the way, in order to graduate, you need a social or humanities course. And I said, you're telling me this now? And he goes, there's a list of some courses you can take. And I'd never really had an interest in taking golf or anything before, but so for that summer, for 8 weeks, I was on the driving range 3 times a day, just learning how to hit balls. But we never actually played a round or anything.
Yeah.
He always offered that we could go play a round, but it was also his summer, and he didn't really want to take us on the round. So
Yeah. Do
we,
you feel like you're pretty comfortable with the club?
the friend that I went with, he's also kind of new, and he said that for someone who's never been to a round of golf before, I did okay, but there's a lot of walking.
Oh, you didn't take a cart?
No, it was a 9-hole course, and it was
Oh,
pretty
gotcha.
small. And he said we would have been pushing the people or pressing the people in front of
Hmm.
us.
You know, Justin and I were just talking about golf etiquette, where if you nobody teaches you this, right? You kind of just have to learn it as you go, or like you're with somebody, be like, hey, like you shouldn't do that, or like you should stand here. And yeah, that idea of like pressing somebody, like I would have never even thought of that, but it is like a tempo that you kind of have to keep. Um,
Yeah, I was definitely taking a lot of swings and not making much contact with the ball, so I felt bad for the people behind us.
yeah. Justin's a very good golfer. You know, he probably wouldn't say he's a very good golfer, but I would say it. I guess it's all relative. Uh, so yeah, we're trying to get into, or I'm trying to get into it. My dad's a good golfer. You know, Mazza boys. Yeah, I think I'm the only one that doesn't golf. Even our Uncle Mike, who's has some medical health concerns. He gets. Can he still hit a golf club?
Yeah, he doesn't know what club to hit. We help him out sometimes, but yeah,
I
he's
don't know
still
what
fine.
club to hit.
It's a good point. Yeah.
I
No,
saw a funny meme. It was just like when your friend who doesn't golf asks you, it's like 150 yards to the green. Do I use my 7, my 9, or my
Doesn't
driver?
matter.
Yeah, and the guy's just like they all go the same distance.
yeah, I was turning around and screaming to my friend Alex because he would hit the ball left, I would hit the ball right, and I'm like 6, 7, and I think he just kept saying putter, and I was like, I think you're just messing with me now, but I kept hitting the putter.
Dude, I went to the range today and I just like felt like a fool. It's tough to go by yourself if
Yeah.
you're not good because it's like frustrating. Like you're like, it's not going where I want it to go. What do I need to change? And no one's there to help you.
Well, that's the thing, Dom. It's about like and Shuba, I was telling Dom this. I had an issue with my driver, and like I went to a facility that I take lessons at, and you could also do practice sessions there. But it's a whole camera setup. You can watch yourself. It's all like the physics of it. And I was like, oh, I'm chicken winging my left arm, right? Like if I said that to you guys, like, what the hell does that mean?
Yeah, I wouldn't even know what to look for.
Right. To me, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's not how my body should be. And I fix this one thing, and all of a sudden playing golf again, and it's fun. So, like to your point, Dom, it is hard. I mean, there's a couple great YouTubers out there that I think are pretty basic and simple, but it is such a frustrating sport for sure. It's a good thing we're not professionals. That's all I keep saying.
Yeah, by hole 3, hole 4, I was really wanting to just go home.
Yeah.
But then
I mean, was it a nice day out at least?
it was a gorgeous day out. We
Oh,
were
that's nice.
in the middle of Oregon, down in Wilsonville. It was just the rolling hills, wine country. It was gorgeous.
Beautiful. Yeah, Justin and I went golfing maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, and it was like raining, and then
Terrible
like
weather.
the whole course was just like saturated, and I'm chunking shots. I'm like, I'm not having that great of a time. I'm not gonna be honest. Justin, did you have to take any random courses like that in college? I had to take one, but I'll let you go first.
Um,
Kind of like athletic stuff.
yeah, I know what you're saying. I don't recall.
You never
I
took
don't
like badminton 101?
know. It wasn't anything silly or like any of those classes.
This guy did.
Yeah, I guess not. I guess we were pretty straightforward for like your 4 year degree. I know you had to take like an art or but
Right,
like
right.
again, it could be like sculpt. I mean, I'm sure we had sculpting or shit like that. I couldn't even tell you what I took.
Yeah, I don't think I had to take. So I did scuba diving.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. So like,
Ooh.
yeah, I'm a certified scuba diver. No big deal. I haven't utilized it since I got certified in college, but I am certified. Yeah, me and like three of my friends were like, "Oh, let's just take scuba. It's fucking sick." And it was fun, but then the certification was the morning after Halloween, so November 1st. So in there was it was snowing, and we were in a lake scuba diving. It was not one of the more enjoyable
That's
experiences of my life.
yeah, it's kind of a cool picture. I feel like, but I
Yeah,
wouldn't want
cool
to be
in
doing that.
theory, but you don't want to be
Yeah,
out there. Yeah, yeah.
I don't know anything about scuba diving, but I feel like it shouldn't be snowing where you
It
are going
shouldn't be. No, we
underwater.
wore what are called dry suits. So there's wet and dry suits. Wet suits are like what surfers wear usually. A dry suit is think of it as like a jumper, like a jumpsuit, but you can have clothes on underneath it. So like sweatshirts, sweatpants, things like that. And then you have these rubber seals that you like suck all the air. You're like vacuum sealing yourself in. I had a leak in mine, but
I've always thought that a wetsuit would prevent you from getting wet, but now this idea of a dry suit exists. Is it preventing you from
I think a
staying dry?
wetsuit's more about temperature, like it keeps you a little bit warmer. I don't really know why people wear wetsuits. I don't know.
Shub, it's the same thing as what you park in a driveway, but you drive in a parkway.
Oh man.
Don't even get me started on that one.
We don't have the time.
Where do I begin? All right. Well, let's just get right into it. So, Shub, the first topic I want to talk to you about is something that I call the art of schmoozing. So, Shub, in the best way possible, not a con on you, but you are someone that I would consider a professional schmoozer. You can enter a room and immediately strike up a conversation with anyone, whether it's in a professional setting or whether it's at the bar. How did you get so good at socializing in both a professional and a casual setting?
Yeah, so I think this all comes down to learned behaviors. As a Indian boy growing up in rural Indiana, and it was very apparent to me at a young age that I didn't look like everyone else. I was the only turbaned wearing Punjabi Sikh boy in this small rural town, Indiana, where I grew up. And post 9/11, which happened when I was early in elementary school, it really drew a lot of unwanted light, maybe you could say, to the 7-year-old, 8-year-old boy, or whatever how old I was. And I had to quickly flip the script before the script was written for me of
Mhm.
this guy doesn't look like us, he must not think like us, he must be kind of like those people that are on the television that are getting blared on Fox News, and these are the people that are behind all of the terrorism that's happening in our country. Um, Unfortunately, I was like, I don't know those people on the screen either. I'm just a 8-year-old boy. So before I could let other people kind of write the story for me, I had to learn to set the narrative for myself and disarm people before they even had the chance of feeling that they were um, different than me by any
Mm.
means. At the end of the day, we're all just children in this world, and we are very quick to form opinions. But so I guess for that to be related to what you're asking me of this idea of schmoozing, I wouldn't necessarily call it schmoozing. I'm never actively really doing it, and I've only recently, through years of therapy, figured out that I was even doing it, and I was even doing it at a young age. I did not know I was doing it. This is all
Hmm.
going to make my therapist, shout out Allison, um,
Oh, you're
very,
not. I thought you were seeing that guy. Isn't there
uh,
Nick or
yeah,
something?
Nick,
Right.
shout out Nick. No, Nick got me through some other trials and tribulations.
Mm.
Women, oh man, love him. But but Allison, on the other hand, played more of a role into my childhood developmental things, and she really helped me
Hmm.
figure out that um, I'm a people pleaser
Yeah.
by default, and to a degree, to some fault. And sure, there's good times for that, but then the it's a double-edged sword because sometimes on the opposite end of constantly people pleasing, sometimes your own original thoughts don't really get portrayed, and it gets easy to get looped into some opinions that maybe I don't want to be associated with. But since I don't want to say my own opinions and offend someone, I'd rather just keep them to myself. So it's
Sure.
yeah.
Yeah, lot to unpack there, Shub. I find it interesting that it kind of stems from this defense mechanism of like, I'm gonna, since I look so different, I'm gonna make sure that I don't give them any other reason to, think different of me, whatever. Like, I'm a cool guy, kind of getting to there. Do you have the same kind of people pleasing with people maybe that look like you, or is it more catered towards people that look differently?
Um, I would actually say it's the exact same for people that look like me, but for the opposite reason. Um, for them, it's uh, wait, I know I look just like you, but I don't act like you. So I guess I wouldn't say it's
Hmm.
the opposite reason, but I sometimes feel imposter syndrome with people that look like me as well, just because I didn't actually grow up around many Indian people, let alone turbaned wearing Indian people in small town rural Indiana. So I, grew up listening to Blink 182 and The
Right.
Killers and a
Fucking
little bit
Panic
of
at the Disco.
exactly. And my older sisters absolutely love them, and they were kind of going through this crisis as well, but in different ages in their life. And I, through trickle down effect of them trying to figure out their things in middle school and high school, respectively, I was seeing and learned behaviors of, okay, maybe they're trying these other things that normal, traditional, first generation Indian kids wouldn't be trying,
Hmm.
just to assimilate themselves so well into the American culture that sometimes when I'm hanging out with just a group of Punjabi people or Indian people that look like me, I almost feel imposter syndrome of I don't know much about Bollywood or traditional, Bollywood culture and stuff. So it's the other way around. Of let me just say my few things that I know about that stuff, and
Yeah, it's like your three like fun facts that you just make
yeah,
sure you slide those in there.
exactly. Like, oh, he's one of us. Yes.
Yeah, you're in an interesting situation where, you didn't grow up, right? As a traditional Indian will say, like you kind of did a lot of things that are common in white culture, but you are Punjabi, right? So yeah, that's that weird middle ground you find yourself in.
Yeah, I think a lot of first generation immigrants that are of my age, the age of social media and the age of having constant uh, accessibility to other people's information and worldly stuff, we almost want to step back from our culture out of a sign of embarrassment or a sign of I'll be seen differently.
Hmm.
But then there's a precipice of education and childhood where then we actually, people start caring more about wanting to see the outside world, and it's like, hey, you're someone that's from the outside my America world. What is it like? And then I'm
Right.
like, no, I don't really know because I
I'm from
actually grew up.
Indiana, bro.
I grew up with Saturday morning cartoons, and I've been trying my whole life to run away from that. But
Yeah.
now I'm trying to also explore my roots and my where I'm from and my peoples. So,
Sure. Yeah. Justin and I have chatted about something of similar nature where we talk about language and how when our grandparents came over from Italy, it was kind of like a mad dash to learn English as fast as possible and to not use Italian in the household, right? As a result, our parents in that generation don't really know Italian. My dad will say he knows Italian, but he does not know Italian. But now it's kind of like flip flopped, right? Where people of our generation, if they speak another language, they're like, "Oh, I'm definitely teaching my kid to speak this language. If not, I'm going to tell them to, learn how to speak 3 languages." So it's interesting how it's kind of flip flop like that.
yeah, my mom to my nieces and nephews, my sister's kids, will not speak to them in English.
Yeah,
Only speaks to them in Punjabi. And my sisters love it. They're like, this is great. It takes the burden of,
right.
um,
That's another good point. They have another generation to teach that. Like if our grandparents were still here, maybe, and they were still like with it cognitively, maybe they would feel the inclination to teach us Italian, which would be fun. Yeah.
yeah, and it's nice for me as well because then it reminds me that I do know this other language. I would say I'm very fluent. My mother would say I don't know a lick of Punjabi, but I can get by, and it's nice to know that I have that in my back pocket. This idea of bilingual to a degree, trilingual, and that
Yeah,
plays a
and
lot.
do you speak a little bit of Hindi as well?
Correct. Yeah, we grew up
Yeah.
on Bollywood movies. I lived 2 lives: the life at school of an American boy, and then the life at home of an Indian boy. So at home, we did watch Bollywood movies and stuff. So I grew up a lot of around Hindi language.
Yeah. Did you see that cricket was played in New York recently? Like there's like this huge cricket tournament.
T20
Oh, yeah,
T20 World
T20 is
Cup.
huge. That's I do know a little bit about that. Enough that I can have talking points with brown people, but not
USA beat
much.
Pakistan. Big
Nice.
upset. It was the biggest statistical upset in cricket in like the last 30 years. And then
Wow.
they moved on. I know India just won the T20 in Mexico. I think the finals were.
Wow.
Oh, it wasn't just at Eisenhower.
No, it was like the
No.
first round. Yeah, I don't know the formatting, but it did bring out. There's a healthy population of Indian, Pakistan immigrants in the New York metro area, obviously, but specifically in
Quit.
an area where, yeah, like in between Manhattan and like the suburbs, Long Island. So like Queens is huge, and
Shub knows Queens. Shub has family in Stony Brook, right?
so okay,
Stony Brook, Jamaica,
yeah,
Yeah.
um,
there you go.
Long Island, the whole thing, you name
So
it.
I know they made
I
a
got an
lot of
uncle that
money.
drives a cab there.
Nice. Cool.
Classic.
Wait, Shub, I have a clarifying question on language and then one point on just the immigration stuff. So when you say you speak, is it you speak Punjab and then you are Punjabi? Did I get that right?
Exact
No.
other way around.
Other way.
I
Okay.
was I was born in the state of Punjab in India, and if you were born in the state of Punjab, you're inherently a Punjabi, and the language is also Punjabi.
And explain Hindu then. Is it Hindu in
It's
Hindi?
Hindi. Hindi
Right.
is the most spoken language in India. It is also the national language in India, um, and Hindi is the main language if you're a Hindu, which is someone who practices Hinduism. You most likely speak Hindi, but there's also a gazillion dialects
Right.
underneath that pyramid, and please don't ask me anything about that.
No. That's enough. I like to learn, and that's good.
Well, and one thing
And
which is interesting, right? The Punjab region extends into Pakistan as well, right? So it's not just India.
No, this is very correct. I met someone from Lahore, Pakistan, here in Portland, actually, a few weeks ago, and we both can say we're both Punjabi and we're from the
Hmm.
state of Punjab, but I support the Indian cricket team, and she supports the Pakistani cricket team.
Cool. That's cool. Just on the immigration piece, I was talking to someone recently about this. How again, Dom and I are European immigrant, right, family, and we're second generation, so we're very far removed from this. But it's very different, to your point, when your skin color or your culture or even your the colors you wear, like from a outfit perspective, stick out, right? Like compared to, especially in the States. And I was talking to someone from a Latin descent, I think it was Colombian, and they were explaining, because there's so many first generation Latin American people that in like my kind of like larger friend group from the sports perspective, because it's super active here. And something we were talking about, Dom, was actually like the Copa and how these soccer tournaments that are so consistent, like the Copa and the World Cup, or some of these like traditional events that the States really kind of embraces. There's so many spots. Like I saw on Instagram, someone went to a Colombian soccer bar in New York City, right, to go watch the game. And those places exist. Now, living in New York, that's a whole different story, right? Versus living in Indiana. But to your point, just speaking to someone who she's like, hey, I'm super brown, right? I'm like super tan. I stick out like a sore thumb. Everyone assumes I'm Mexican because that's like the big assumption, right, for Latin America. But she did say, because we were talking the differences about just European and Latin American descent, was just like there's so many like Latin Americans here are really still holding on to their culture, and they're all still speaking Spanish in and outside the household. They're all still, going to their dinners or wearing their traditional clothing. It's like cool to see. Like I wish Dom and I like had more of our heritage culture. The closest we get to is like ordering cannolis, at the bakery.
Well, it was when Zizzy, who was our
Yeah,
grandpa's sister,
the
we would
last
go
living
over.
from Italy.
Yeah, she was like super Italian, like really like cooked up a storm, like spoke like broken English. So that was like our last but then as the older generation dies, our our dad's generation is pretty Americanized.
Yeah, for sure.
That's fine.
Yes, this idea of generations is kind of interesting as well. I speak to my sisters about this of, second generation is, as you said, Justin, twice removed. First generation is um, your parents were the ones who moved here. Technically, I'm not even first generation. I was born in India, right? So I'm
Mm-hmm.
the first applicant of people here, but at the same time, I don't really consider myself that because I was brought here when I was 4 or 5. So in a way, I'm also first generation. I'm in this in between generation, which I think a lot of um, people that I know, at least, that came from the big immigration in the late 80s, middle 80s, 90s, the kids of the generations consider themselves this first generation hybrid.
So Shub, did Yash like grow up in India for? I mean, she's what, 10 years older than you?
Yeah, so my oldest sister, she's 10 years older than me. She ultimately came here when she was 16, I believe. So she
Oh
was
wow.
like in the middle, if not end of high school. Actually, I think she was closer to 17. And she probably had the biggest change um, of anyone, right? Because she had a whole life in India
Yeah.
in the school that she went to. That's all she knew. But getting uprooted was probably the biggest change for her. Granted, she went to an English speaking private school in India, and this idea of
Mm.
private school is so different in India than America. It's not this idea of you're snootier, you have more money or access. It's just you just go to private school. It's not really. There are public schools, but it's not the same. So,
Hey, Shub, one more question. Shub's your real name, right? Like that's your birth name?
no, no.
See,
I
this is
have,
why I want to ask. Yeah.
yeah. So my full name is Shub Carmen, but for ease of um, saying it in the family and also specifically saying it to my colleagues and
Right.
peers in
So that's where
elementary
I'm
school
going.
in Indiana.
So that's
Uh,
exactly was my question about, is there, and this is just like, how does one determine when they should shift their name a bit?
Sure. No one, even in the family, really calls me Shub Carmen. It's just too long. It's a mouthful. It would take my mom forever to yell at me. So it's just shortens it to actually in the name in the family it was Shubham. If you say it Shubham, and that was just what it was called. That's just what my name was. But telling a bunch of second graders post 9/11 to call me shoe bomb was
Ooh.
Oh, interesting.
a bit interesting, and ultimately I
Huh.
did up until middle school. Everyone, just all of my friends to this day that I know from elementary school still call me shoe bomb. A lot of them have shifted to Shub, which when I went from our little elementary school to our little bit bigger middle school, I remember one of the first days the teacher asking, "Okay, this is too long reading Shub Carmen," and she's like, "Would you break this in half? What do you want?" She said, "Do you want Shub or do you want Carmen?" And my life just like flashed before my eyes, and ended up picking Shub. I could have been Carmen. I could have been Carmen.
That's where I was
It's,
like, it sounds like a
yeah.
pretty American name. Yeah, Carmen.
No, and so I ended up picking Shub, but that's when Shoe Bomb kind of died off. But to this day, I still have good friends from elementary school that are friends to me this day, and they still call me Shoe Bomb, but everyone just calls me Shoe.
That's interesting that you chose your name, and I think I've heard of some parents doing that for their kids. For like, oh, when he's of age, we're gonna let them choose their name. Um,
No, my mom
yeah,
will still call me Shubham in front of my bosses, in front of
yeah.
medical school colleagues, anyone. And I'm like, Mom,
Mom, I'm Shoop now.
Shoot.
um, all right. I just want to touch on one more point about schmoozing. I know that again, you're really, and I don't mean schmoozing as like a bad term, but you're really good at talking to people in like a casual environment. Do you feel like those same skills apply in the professional world? Have you seen that translate?
Yeah, absolutely. There's two ideas of that. One is the interview process
Yeah,
of applying to get a job as a young doctor fresh out of school. Um, it was easy to talk to people and feel comfortable at displaying my confidences and what I could really provide to clinics, or anything that I know and I think I'm good at doing.
yeah.
As I'm fumbling to get some words right now, this is much better usually. But then also in the everyday, I'm a clinician, I see patients all day long. It becomes easy to really get people to trust you if they like you,
Yeah,
and in modern day healthcare, there's a lot of distrust in the medical system.
sure.
There's a lot of uh, misuse. People feel unheard. You probably know this, Dom, as well as a
Hmm.
clinician who sees patients all day. They have been tossed around. People just don't feel like they're cared for. So at the very least, if all I can do is give someone a listening ear and relate to their problems and make them feel heard, which schmoozing, sure, that's something we can call it, right? But
Right.
then I feel like I've done a decent amount of my job, and then they trust me, and it that's a good start,
Right. It's about
for
developing relationships, and it's not just you come in, see me for 5 minutes, and then I kick you to the curb. So, like half of my visits are just like shooting the shit. And, I try to make sure that I remember people's, I don't know, whatever, like if they have kids or not, or like, say if like I found out that their kid likes to play basketball, I'd be like, oh, like, how's your son's team doing? Yada, yada, yada. And they'd be like, oh, he's doing really good. Or on our new patient intake, it says, what do you like to do for fun, or like what kind of physical exercise do you do? So if people write like golf, start talking about golf, or like soccer or whatever. And Yeah, I think it's important just to kind of hit it, hard, right? That first visit, just to really establish, like, hey, like we're friendly here. Like we're not going to solve all your problems on this visit. Today is just the intro, and hopefully, we can kind of further develop and foster that relationship for years to come. That's kind of how I see primary care.
Absolutely. And I think that's why they call it the practice of medicine. I don't
Ooh,
know. I don't know all the answers. I don't have all the information.
yeah,
Uh, but ultimately, if you're willing to take this journey with me as I'm learning, and I'm a new provider, and there's information coming out about everything every day, if you trust that I'll try to give you my best and most sound advice and you can trust to take it, then I think we're going to have a healthy relationship moving forward.
yeah, absolutely. Like it frustrates me when people think down upon medical providers because they like Google something or that they like look something up. Where it's just like
Lindsay.
you don't know everything and new information comes out all the time. So if you have someone who's just like, "Oh, I already know that because I learned about that 15 years ago," they're not going to be up to date on the latest research.
I know you use online medical textbooks a lot as well in your practice, and I do too. So
Yeah, I use Medscape for the most part.
As a patient only, I think what's made me more aware of what you guys are talking about is just growing up in a medical family and realizing medical professionals are just like everyone else. It's their job. Some days you have good days, sometimes you have bad days. As you grow into any field, you gain more experience, you gain more knowledge, you get where to pull it from. I do think, to your point, Dom, or should whoever said it, like the internet of everyone self-educating themselves before they come into a medical visit. They come in with a predetermined like answer a lot of the times, right? And I'm sure you
Yeah.
guys are going to have to talk them off or like be like that has you're thinking of a symptom then you don't have a symptom, and I'm sure that's a challenge on itself.
Right. Yeah. People are, disaster thinkers, right? Just by nature. So if they think that they have a cough, they think it means they have lung cancer, right? And they go on a rabbit hole of looking up, usually WebMD, I would say, maybe HealthNet or Healthline. And that's what I tell people. I was like, my job is to help suss out the information for you, right? Like, think of me as kind of like a search engine. Just because, yeah, you can fucking Google anything, right? And you're like, oh my God, like, is this a lymph node? Do I have cancer? And it's a lot of talking off the ledge. Would you agree, Shub?
I completely agree. Once again, there's two sides of that as well, in a sense that people come in with very concise questions that they've formulated and they have done their own research to a degree, and they just want that one answer. But sometimes, as the person who's doing the diagnoses and wanting to ask my own questions, and it makes that a little difficult
Yeah.
because then the patient is so pigeonholed into this is what I have, this is what I want you to tell me I have, and drawing a line as a people pleaser is very hard. uh,
Yeah, that's a tough business to be in as a primary care provider if you're a people pleaser.
yeah,
Easy to
that
kind of get taken advantage of in situations.
yeah, absolutely, and that's something that I'm working on as well. But mm, at the same time, knowing when to ask for help
Right.
as a provider as well. I really lean on my attending physicians and I really lean on my colleagues and my smaller social network of providers that I went to school with, yourself included, and never being afraid to also ask for specialists. Here in Portland, we have a really good access to all the hospitals and the specialists that work there for provider
That's
referral
great.
lines.
Um, Awesome. So, I wanted to talk about one more thing. We usually can get in detail about two topics. So, the second topic is along similar lines. Um, and we've chatted about this before. So, we had a really tight group in Portland, all of us, right? We went through everything together, right? From sun up to sundown, we were with each other. We all graduated, right? And a lot of us started moving away to different parts of the country. As a result, we've been forced to make new friends in wherever, like me being in a new city, like you staying in the city that we went to school with, but a lot of your social network, right, has left. being a social guy, how have you found it easiest to make new social connections in Portland?
Yeah, no, that was definitely one of the hardest things about leaving school, was thus having all of your close-knit, non-blood support system also
Yeah,
leaving.
yeah,
You and I, we lived together for the better part of 2 years, and as we were exiting school, and even before that, we spent so much time together with our small group, and then having if not 50, 60, 75% of everyone leaving overnight, more or less, it was as we're starting residency, which is one of the toughest things you can do in the medical world. It was really daunting immediately of
yeah.
feeling alone, feeling like, oh no, this is going to be tough. Who am I going to lean on? Who am I going to ask for help? But then ultimately, that part of the professional life was answered in a sense that I can lean on my colleagues and I can lean on my attendings. But then it became okay, but now who am I going to have fun with as well? you know,
Mm-hmm.
not only did I spend all my time studying with those people and learning with those people, I also spend all my fun time having fun with them, meeting them
Right.
out, going for drinks with them, doing things on the river, whatever you want to call it, going camping on the weekends. Um, I'd say it's definitely been tough because a lot of people that are our age, as we were entering the job market, as you can say, at the age of, late 20s, early 30s, people had already been in their job field for almost 10 years at that point. So their level of income was already higher than mine. So the things that my friends would like to do inherently involved some higher levels of income. And it would be a little tough that way. But I'd
Mm-hmm.
say meeting people and also establishing relationships as a single physician was interesting in a sense that I didn't have much time to invest in people
Mm-hmm.
because I was so busy working. So it's been hard how to answer your question of how I met these people. Ultimately, it's like a referral system. It's how you refer
Yeah.
someone to a
Friend of a
rheumatologist,
friend.
friend
Yeah.
of a friend.
Yeah.
Like if you hang out with my company, you're probably good company. Um, but of course, as we all know, that's not always the case.
Yeah. Do you feel like these new connections that you're making are more on a superficial level, or have you been able to find people to foster deeper connections with?
Uh, y- Both, definitely, definitely both. I'd say some of the people that I've met since school has ended are going to be definitely friends for a very long time because they understand that, I'm going through a very big thing right now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still in my residency, I'm still learning, and I won't always have the free time that they do
Yeah.
to foster connections during the weekdays because I'm absolutely exhausted after a work day. I don't have time to do that, and I have limited amount of time that I can spend between establishing interpersonal relationships with people who I want to see romantically, as opposed to people who I want to see as a friend, as opposed to spending time with my family. And ultimately, it's tough to have to make those choices of who am I going to lean into.
Right.
It's not easy to always have the right answer, and I don't always make the right choice on that, and it's tough. But
Yeah. I mean, our time is limited, right? And we can get pulled in all these different directions, right? And whether we made the right choice or not, we really don't know, right? We just make a choice in that scenario, and that's what the choice is. And I've chatted with both of you guys about the idea of just not having enough time to make friends, right? Where you really do need to like put in the work and just like spend time with people. And it doesn't even have to be like meaningful time, It could just be like you're at a bar with someone watching a football game, but you're doing it together, right? It's just you two. So it's like if you have enough of those hours that add up, then that's where the friendships come. But we're all working, right? If you have a relationship or, if you're starting to think about having kids or whatever, that adds even more stress. And it's like, I wish there was more hours in the day. That's kind of what it boils down to.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's definitely a lot of different avenues of meeting people as well that are here. There's social clubs that you can join. There's picnic clubs that happen. There's meetups all over the city for bike rides, for this, for that, and then
The naked
also,
bike ride.
yeah, the Naked Mike Parade is not happening this year for the first time in a very
Oh,
long time. Yeah, I went to the Naked Bike Ride last year for the first time, and let me tell you, it's very naked. It's exactly what it sounds like.
what were you wearing? Were you wearing
uh,
anything?
I was wearing like one of the smaller tidy whities that I have. I didn't
Okay,
want to
yeah,
go full frontal per se,
yeah.
but the friends that I was there with were full frontal, and just within minutes of walking into this giant park, like one of the biggest parks in Portland,
Just everyone's naked.
That's
everyone
crazy.
is naked
That's
on there,
insane.
and I was definitely a little intimidated. I was like, "Whoa,
Sure,
okay."
sure.
And then within just minutes, people are like asking, "Hey, would you like some glitter on your face? Do you want some glitter on your body?" And then I'm a yes man, Dom. I don't say no much.
Not the
Did
glitter.
did your underwear eventually come off?
My underwear did not come off
Okay.
because I was riding a Nike Bike Town bike,
Oh, public bike.
public bike, which, they actually get ahead of this and they know this is happening and they know people are going to use their bikes. So they put covers on all the bikes
Yeah.
before the naked bike ride, which is good thinking on their part, but didn't want to go full frontal on a communal bike.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I could see you rocking like a Borat outfit, the one that he wears to the beach.
Yeah, the banana
That
hammock.
Yeah, the banana hammock. Yeah, that'd be great. Great. A couple more things. What I wanted to discuss too is, instead of being negative and saying that, oh, we're too busy to make new friends, let's flip the script and let's say how we're preserving old friendships. And one of the things that I was thinking about was how I just got added to this Connections New York Times group with you and, Taylor and a couple of other our Portland friends. And that's been great, and I really enjoy doing it. I tell people memes are my love language where like I'll just have like groups that I just send memes to and nobody says anything. Nobody asks like, oh, what's going on in your life? How's work? It's more of just like, hawk two.
Not too girl. Got spit on my fang.
No,
um,
I completely agree, and I'm so glad you're a part of this group. I guess to explain to the listener, aka Justin, what this group is Justin, are you familiar with the New York Times games and the
I
app?
am. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. I'm not sure if this is a thing that other people do as well, because now that I'm thinking about it, I have two of these groups that I have. One of
I,
this is my
I
work
never knew
friend.
you could do a group. All I know is I can play by myself.
well, no,
No,
no, no.
no,
We
no.
don't play it together.
You just talk about
Well, no,
the.
you play and then you share your results.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you have to
Uh,
share.
but you
Yeah.
have to share.
So
Yeah.
it's you're really all testing each other's intelligence. Like,
To a degree, yeah. It's a fun way to stay competitive, but
yeah.
most of the time, to second off of what Dom says, you don't really talk about it. You just send it, and
You're like,
it's just a
they
quick,
got me on that last one or
yeah.
something. Yeah.
Or at
Yeah.
least I think that way. I really look back and I'm like, did I do the
I
best on
mean,
this?
dude, everyone's pretty good. Like, I would say everybody gets the Wordle every day, and connections. I'm still
That's
lagging
a
on
good game.
that. But I mean, Sierra's a fucking juggernaut. She gets them every time.
Jeez.
You're joining so late in the
Yeah,
group,
I know.
buddy.
You guys have a lot of practice.
Sierra is the connections queen. I tell her that if she wanted to quit working her regular 9 to 5 and go work for New York Times as someone who
And just
creates these games, she
create the
could.
quizzes. Yeah, yeah.
She's been to the New York Times headquarters in New York. Pretty interesting.
I was about to ask where is that, but I'm glad I didn't.
It's in Seattle, actually, just down the road.
It could have been. Justin, are there any things that you've been doing to like preserve old friendships?
We so Shub, I have two people actually. They're both in the wedding on my side, and they're married to each other. So my friend Anya, I've known her since 5 years old or whatever it is, and her husband Andre, who came to the States actually from Portugal, around 7 or 8 years old. We're very close with them, but again, to everyone's point, right? Like lives go in different directions, especially when you become in your mid to late 20s. You are scheduling plans 2 months in advance. It's insane how hard it is to schedule plans. But something that we do, and this is more of like a newer thing, but it gets us together, is we do a movie night where we'll actually like get the four of us together. Sometimes like their siblings will come, and we just did all the Lord of the Rings trilogy, which was like a great time because Lindsay's never seen them. We're starting to incorporate like other movies, and that's a cool way of
Like
like,
Dune.
yeah, dude. Oh yeah, we watched the first Dune. We got to watch the second one now. It's a cool way of not just like I got dinner with actually one of Dom and I, our old friends on Friday, saw his new wife, their new house, their new puppy, etc. But it was very much, wow, like tell me everything that's been going on the last 6 months kind of dinner versus movie night. It's just like hanging out, having a good time. And I can see these people probably once a month, once every 6 weeks. And we don't really have like a strong texting relationship. Like, yeah, there's a group message, but it's usually about making plans for the next time. But that's been like a cool newer thing that I'm like, dude, I really like this just of get together and do something consistent, but we're finding obviously, different movies to finding a way to make it different. So that's been a lot of fun.
Nice. I would say, one of the difference between Justin your setup and then me and Shub's is that ours is definitely more scattered around the country.
Sure.
I guess Shub's connections are all in Portland, though. Everyone in the group is in Portland except for me. All right, that's a bad example. Scratch that.
No, that is. I know what you're maybe gonna try to say at, Dom, which is our core group from Portland, which is I think the point of all of this is they're everywhere, right? How do we
Right.
stay connected to these people that are now all over the country, all over the Southwest, the South, you're in the Northeast, like how do we stay connected but also honor each other's time limits and
Yeah.
time zones.
Sure.
It's bedtime for you guys, and the sun is wide up here. Like
Yeah.
it's tough. So I don't know what the answer is. In fact, do you have any answers to this, Dom? How do I stay closer friends with you? What do you like?
I like just like fucking competition things, or like memes, It's like just send me something that means that you're thinking of me, but I don't want to have a 50-minute conversation with you.
Yeah. Well, Dom,
That's my
you brought
ideal
up like the
situation.
fantasy football thing, right? With your
Right.
group of
Yeah.
friends. Like that's a way to stay competitive, yet you stay chatting. I think it's interesting, Shub, like Dom and I have lived so far away for so long. Like we haven't lived in the same state in many, many years, but I never consider ourselves like closer. Not only do we talk every day, and it's usually just like a hey, what's going on? And if it doesn't happen, we also one don't get upset at each other, and like we each have our own shit going on. But I think something Dom and I have done a lot of now is find ways to meet somewhere else instead of like me coming there. I think Dom, like we did Austin and San Antonio one year, and that was like a
Mm-hmm.
fun way of just instead of me just going there and us, hanging out and doing nothing, which again is totally great too. And we do a lot of that. Like finding ways to experience something new together because then you're getting something out of it, like selfishly, right? I'm getting a fun trip to Austin and San Antonio and whatever. I'm hoping golf will create more of that actually. I've never
I'm
seen,
supposed to have my lesson tomorrow.
dude, I've never seen someone so bad, so in love with the sport.
Hey,
Like,
hey, hey.
it's amazing how
I know
much he
you didn't
loves
I know you
golf.
didn't mean that to
This,
sound as
this
bad
guy,
as it did.
this guy's just talking shop. He's talking about DeChambeau. It's
Say
awesome.
I wish I was a lot better than I am currently,
Yeah,
but I will get
I
there.
love your investment. I love your
What
emotional investment in the game.
you guys say you don't fight often, but Dom opened the podcast by saying that Justin's one of the best golfers, and Justin's now saying Dom's one of the worst golfers. How do you guys keep this
It's
brotherly love
relative.
Yeah,
going?
this is all getting edited out.
How do you guys keep this brotherly love going? I'm so curious. And I've actually been always a little envious of this as well. I have a lot of friends who have two, if not three brothers, and they are so well connected. And I
I
love
wish we
all
had
my
more, honestly.
Yeah.
I love my sisters. God love them, and they take care of me my entire life. I'm the youngest, and they're the best. They all have their own childrens now, and they have their own husbands, they have their own families. I feel like it's tough for me to create these young, dumb memories with them, and
Yeah.
in reality, I probably shouldn't be making young, dumb memories with them anyways. I should be making meaningful memories with them. But I've always been a little envious of specifically you two as well, and our good friends Miles and Kirk, as you know, Dom.
Oh yeah.
That brotherly friendship is great, and I love my sisters. It's just so different than that, right? And
Yep.
I'd like to think gender doesn't play too much of a part into it, uh, but at the same time, I think it maybe
I
does,
think it
and
does.
I think it
also
does.
age gap as well.
Yeah.
For sure. I think age over gender
Yeah.
probably. Because if Justin was 8 years older than me, we probably wouldn't be having because then you're always
Different
like
parts in our
not
lives.
at the same part.
That's what it is.
Like yeah, it's like, oh, I'm just getting to high school now. He is in like a 4-year relationship, and now I just got into my like first relationship, and then he's married with 2 kids. So it's
Well,
always like you're lagging behind.
I just spoke to Lindsay about this. We spent 6-7 hours today with a newer friend and their couples, and we've known them Shub for 2 months. They're coming to our wedding in 2 months. We'll be going to theirs, just because like we just want to spend time with these people, like straight up, right? And but a big part of it is they're our age. That funny enough, they're exactly in our profession, which is very rare. That both the husband and wife are very similar in professions. They're going through the same life moments, and I think like that's the biggest thing when you want to talk to someone. If I want to bitch and moan about how much my wedding's costing me, I don't want to talk about it with someone who got married 5 years ago or someone who has no thought about planning a wedding yet, right? Because that's what's going on in my life, and that takes up a large amount of my brain power, right now. So it's nice to find the same walks of life. Like we have a friend group, a lot of our friend groups having children, and it's so hard to find time with them. And I totally respect it. I don't hold it against them. Like they bring up things I have no reflection on. I'm like, I don't know how often your kid should be sleeping or eating. Like I'm not there yet in my life. So it's timing.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think timing is a lot to do with it, and and then maybe to wrap this up with friends again, finding friends who are in the same spot as me and who are going through these big life changes and having these questions of, I've only known myself to be a student. I don't even know if I have a personality outside of student. And now that I have the tiniest bit of income, the tiniest bit of free time, what am I going to do with that time? And are you going to present something that we can do together? Um, and I love all my friends here in Portland, and all over the country and the world.
Oh, well
Yeah.
said. Well, let's wrap it up. Shub, this was great. Thanks for coming on. I knew you would be a great guest just because you can, when you talk, people listen.
Oh,
I
I don't
agree.
think that's true.
No,
Well,
that's
thanks, man.
true, buddy.
Thanks so much for having me on. This is a blast. You guys are always fun to talk to, and whether it be in person, whether it be over a video Zoom call from halfway across the country.
Yeah, there is another topic that I want to bring up at another time. It would have been a big topic to cover. So we'll put a pin in it. Okay.
Hey, you can have me on as much as you want. My office will be sending you guys a bill for this, so uh, have me
All
on
right, we'll
whenever you
just pay you your usual rate.
I'll
So
take
$10.
one one case of gluten-free Coronas.
Do they have those?
I don't know.